The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Some minor technical difficulties right now, Chip.
Uh-oh. Well, can I say hello and welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk?
Yes,
I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ, and I'm trying to bring Chip.
And I'm the telephone number. So, and the Facebook page. So, there's an empty chair. There I am. I knew you'd find me. I was hiding. It's kind of like the money in the city of Fall River. You know, you can't find it because they can't account for it.
Isn't that the truth at this point?
So again, welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk, and we have a lot to talk about today.
Oh yeah, that meeting last night was amazing. I mean, obviously we're looking at a bunch of nitwits that couldn't take care of themselves, and they weren't happy when the auditor turned around and told them that they were all being bad boys.
Well, you know, it doesn't surprise me because it rings to what happened in all the way back in 1991 when an arbitrator, when we audited the city's healthcare, said that the city's books were in a total state of disarray. Well, all these years later, they still are. And what really disturbs me is the answer. We're working on it. You're working on it. What do you need, 100 years to figure out how much money you're spending and how much money you're bringing in and actually account for things? We've always said they don't really want anybody to know where the money is because then we can know where we are financially. The fact is, when you follow the money, you will follow it right into receivership. And it is totally unacceptable, because I am on the verge of getting some taxpayers to file a suit against the city, because based on the information that we got yesterday, for all we know, millions of dollars could have been siphoned from the city treasury and no one would know about it. And actually that question was asked during our arbitration, and the then auditors and treasurer said, yeah, I guess we could be transferring it to somebody's account. Well, you know something? It's unacceptable. It's our tax money. It's our city, and because of their malfeasance, and I'll say malfeasance, I'm not gonna say misappropriation. It's malfeasance on their part. They are elected to run the city, and what they're doing is they're wasting and spending our tax money, and their response to their mismanagement and malfeasance is to continually raise our taxes again and cut our services. That is absolutely unacceptable, and it's going to stop. And if it's going to take cleaning out every politician that's running this government, things have to change in Fall River, because we can't have no one minding the store.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit and what happened last night. Okay, the auditor, with a 100-page audit, the report is 101 pages, and he actually cited the pages when he spoke. I tried to have some of it available here so we could air it, bits and pieces, but FRG-TV still hasn't uploaded that file or made it available. Hopefully they're not editing it. I don't want to say that, Rainey. I know you don't do that. But one of the material weaknesses they found in the 10 or 11 programs that the city has in federal grants, only one had a substantial material weakness. Can you take a guess, Chip, on what one that might be?
Could it be the one that the neighborhood liaison works out of?
Yes, imagine that.
Yeah, my crystal ball told me that.
Yeah, I know. The CDA, and they're quoted on pages 12 and 13, they award the contracts to whoever bids the highest. Now, I thought the contracts are supposed to be awarded to the lowest bid. But then again, Mike Dion, and I'm going to quote him, has said numerous times, I will do what I want. I will hire who I want, and nobody's going to tell me what I have to do. So Okay, doesn't matter if federal law requires otherwise, but I guess that's the way it is. They receive quotes for jobs and contracts for jobs after they've been done. Isn't that how you do business in Florida?
Well, apparently that's the way CDA does business, and obviously, Mr. Dion has his right to his opinion that he'll do whatever he wants, but I'm wondering if the people who pay city taxes also pay state tax and federal tax. So it's our money they're wasting too, indirectly and directly. And the fact is, I think if letters go to our Congress people and to the United States Attorney General, maybe he won't do business this way anymore, because, I can't put the cart before the horse. I can't backdate checks. I can't spend money I don't have and then wait till I have it the next fiscal year and not actually be held accountable. But this is our government in action, and it is incompetent, inept, and inconsistent at best.
Did you read the report already? Because I'll tell you right now, another significant deficiency that they had was the grant accounting on page 4 of the report, and the funding there, amazing. Okay, no risk assessments are being done by the city. High loss probability, unrecorded liabilities, IT strategic plan not in place, page 4. No plan for the needs and goals of the system. Let's see. Oh, the parking tickets and the ambulance fees. We don't record them. We don't record them until we collect the money. They're not on the ledger.
Well,
this is the way we do accounting. Wait, it gets better, Jim. Hold on. Debt funding. Where's the information? The permanent funds. They have no idea where they are. But I love the excuse for that one. Well, these are an ancient system. They're old. We can't find the documents.
Well, it's probably because they never had the documents. There's no standardization. Nothing's on a computer. But that's what happened in '91. So it shows that this city and its government does not want to fix the problem, because at the end of that arbitration, they assured the arbitrator that the system would be fixed. Yet, years later, they found accounts that were dormant for 25 years. There's no record of liabilities. There's no record of collections until the end of the year. So what is it? One fee for me and one fee for the city? How do we track things? I can't do that. There's no accounting for your liabilities. How do you pay your bills if you don't know what your liabilities are? You wonder why this city's a mess. And what boggles my mind is that the city council continues to nod their head for all these appropriations when we've been calling for a full and independent audit for years. If this doesn't prove that this city is broken, and realistically, I think over the last 24 years, because this report is not much different than a report that we got 24 years ago. And so what does that say? That says that the system is broke and we have to fix it. And to me, we need somebody from the outside to fix it, because apparently our government is incapable. Our elected officials are incapable of demanding accountability and fixing the system. This is why, unfortunately, we have to use the R word. We maybe need receivership. We've got to bring somebody out here that'll look and say, hey, we've got to know where all the money is, and we're going to stop spending money. Liabilities? Of course. High probability of loss? Of course. We've got almost as much debt as the state. And we're one of the poorest cities in the state. You think we're going to crash? You don't have to be, you don't have to be a psychic to figure out that we're on the road to destruction, and every single elected official is culpable. We have to demand accountability. We have to demand, and I'm going to tell you right now, if any city councilor that votes for the upcoming budget without assurances that no department head will come back for any additional monies in their budget for anything except an absolutely unforeseen circumstance will not get my vote. Because the fact is, I'm sick and tired of budgets being absolute bullshit. Because they send the budget in, and they're not budgeting half the amount they need. And then what do? For the rest of the year, they come in front of the city council, and the city council allows them to take money from the retirement fund to give them the money that they should have had in their budget. Their liabilities. They didn't list their liabilities. What a surprise. And money from the health care system. All these monies were paid in good faith. Paid by a person to help his retirement, yet they siphon it off. Paid for health care. And had the city invested their health care money, not invested, but kept it in a separate interest-bearing account, as they're required to do by law, Chapter 32B of the Mass General Laws, with the employee money, the city would now have almost $20 million where they could dip into, because the employee trust fund for healthcare, which is running under budget, yet they still want to get more. They've made $12 million over the last 3 years. Where's it gone? Where's the money gone? They would have 3 times, because it's a 75-25. We have over $6 million. They should have over $19 million in the bank if they kept the healthcare money for healthcare and reinvested it in healthcare and put it in a fund. But no, we're like a little child. We're like the little Dutch boy in front of a dike, sticking his finger in all the hole. Oh, there's another hole. Let me steal some money from here, plug it in. Oh, another hole. And what happens is ultimately you run out of fingers and toes, and the dike will burst. And we're very, very close to that. It is appalling. Last night's report was appalling. It is a disgrace, and every single government official should be outraged, and I don't see much outrage, to be perfectly truthful.
No, and the sad part about it, Chip, is that, this report, while it wasn't as thorough as it could have been, because the gentleman responsible for presenting it said, we are not passing judgment on the city. Okay? Cop out, in my opinion. Well,
they were hired to replace Hagen Sahadi by the city, so they're getting paid by the city. So, I mean, that's a pretty damning report, considering that they're saying that about their boss.
Yeah.
And I want to know why Hagen Sahadi is not being called into question for all their audits.
Well, and this is the thing. Some of the significant deficiencies that were found was that there's no process for tracking their permanent funds. There's no process to track supporting documents, okay? Their IT system is decentralized. So everybody is buying the programs that they have to run, costing the city top dollar, when I can go to, for instance, a Microsoft product, Windows, and buy a bulk license and save a lot of money. But no, we gotta buy a license for every single computer in the city. Raises money because some guy who's selling it from the city wrote a check to a couple of people and is now getting his paid back. I'm not going to call out any particular individual who was fired for non-payment of taxes, but that's where it is. And the real interesting part about that came out of this meeting also was that the purchasing department has a problem. And one of the city councilors, Councilor Mayoza, called out the city and said, I like Tim McCoy, nice guy. He was hired to be the purchasing agent. Had no clue what he was doing, no training, wasn't certified. Got the certification after he got the job. Isn't that normal for Fall River? Don't we normally do that? I mean, we go out, remember, the reason why we don't have a residency requirement is so that we enforce is because we have to be able to go outside of the city to get the most qualified person. Why do that when we can stay right here in the city and hire the most qualified person who has no credentials and no certification?
Well, isn't it ironic that we have a system here with no table of organization? Isn't that the way to run the business?
Always.
You do the job, and then you put it out for bids, and then when you do put it out for bids, you take the highest bidder. And then when you hire somebody, you hire them without credentials and then send them to school and get his credentials. There's no pre-existing condition of employment except political connections. and favoritism and patronage. I mean, of course that's the way you run a government, especially in a city like this, and you wonder why the city's in the condition it is. Of course. I mean, what company do you see that doesn't have a table of organization? We're decentralized? Of course. We have our own little fiefdoms. This is like the feudal era. Everybody has their own little fiefdom, and they can do whatever they want and keep the books on the backs of bubblegum wrappers if they want. They don't care. Nobody, who gives a damn? It's only the taxpayers' money. It's not ours. Screw them. Just keep spending. Nobody will get it yet. 25 years later, we still don't have a system. It's appalling. It's disgusting. It's something that has to be changed, and it can only be changed by us, we, the people, at the polls next November.
Yeah, you know, Chip, the sad part about it is, you know, the auditor found that there was the lack of a financial policy and procedure, and departmental, obviously. And Kathy Ann Viveris, the traitor of Fall River, because remember, she was elected to the city council, okay, but no, she had to jump on ship as the city administrator, which now she's paying for. She'll always be, in my eyes, a traitor, and she's lost all political clout with me that she may have ever had, and with a lot of the people who elected her. Turns around and says, oh, we've been working on this since August. Our plan is to have this in place by June. Okay? The auditor said very clearly, to develop this policy and procedure is a long-term process. This is a man who knows. He says it may take as long as 10 years unless the city wants to make the investment and have an outside company develop the policy and procedure for them. God forbid we do that. We have somebody independent come in and tell us how to run our house.
Yeah, well, you know, that's what we need because, you know, that's not flying. Kathy Benedict Arnold Viveris is full of crap again. The fact is that she is working on it. Well, guess what? Why wasn't she working on it from the first day as the city administrator? The fact is that's what she's got to do. I mean, how can you administer a city when you don't have any idea where the money is? It's total chaos. You can't account for anything. There's nothing. And besides that fact, this is the greatest political con in the world. That's their excuse. We're working on it. The check's in the mail. You know, that is crap. They have supposedly been working on this since 1991. Let's not forget, people, that in 1991, we did an audit with Ernst & Young, and at the end of that arbitration, when the city was said that the books were just as they are now, a total state of disarray, the city guaranteed, you know what they said? We're working on it. It'll be fixed by next year. Next year was 1992. We're in 2015. It's still not fixed because what happens is every time you change an administrator, every time you change a mayor, they just throw everything else out the window because there's no records of anything, and they just rob Peter to pay Paul while they're in office and say, screw everybody, we'll just keep bonding and putting the city deeper and deeper in debt, and that's how we got here. This is not the yellow brick road. This is the brown soft thing road. Okay? And I don't care what they say, there's absolutely no excuse. You know, Kathy Ann Viveris should be terminated for cause, because she didn't do her job, and every single person that's responsible should be indicted for malfeasance, because this again is just a reaffirmation of what was said in '91, that this city never learns.
You know, it's interesting, Chip, that you said that all these people should be indicted. Last night, the people in the gallery, many of them, kept asking vocally and verbally, people were hearing it, where are the handcuffs? Where are the handcuffs? And you know, it's the truth. Where are the handcuffs? How come these people think that because they're elected officials, they can just bend the city over and give it to them royally? I mean, at least when I'm getting it royally, I want to be kissed. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, the next time we go to the city council meeting, bring a giant jar of Vaseline. At least it won't hurt as much. You know, but the fact is, they get away with it because we allow them to get away with it. And because that's what the definition of government has become, especially in Fall River. I mean, you look at the federal government and the waste and the redundancy and duplication of effort and just the pure ridiculousness of all things. And Fall River is not ridiculous. We've gone to the sublime in Fall. We've made this an art form. How to rape and pillage the people and pretend that you're working for the good of the city. Yeah, just what we need. More promises that we're fixing it. It'll be ready by August. Sure it will be. And I doubt that seriously. It hasn't been ready since '91. It's appalling. This has to be done. And I'm going to tell you something. I am going to file a complaint with the United States Attorney General and ask the question that can federal money in CDA can we take the highest bid? Can we basically do a job and then put it out for bid? Is that okay? And I'm going to send a copy of that letter to all my congressmen, all my delegation, all my federal delegation, and all you people out there that were in the audience at the city council meeting and who are in our audience today. I encourage you to write letters, to make phone calls to the state attorney general about what's happening in the city, to the United States Attorney General about what's happening with the CDA, because that's our money. They forget that. They think it's their money. They can do anything they want with it. It's their money, and when they run out of it, they'll just get more from us. And that's why the household income is being reduced in this city, and the city is in a total state of chaos. But I will let you close on this, but I want to get into something on a kind of national level at some point. CJ, I want to have enough time. I finally brought my little quotes here because something happened out in California about a college trying to, basically having a board actually authorize the removal of all the American flags from that college. And I cannot stay silent on that issue.
No, you can't. And, I'm glad you brought that up because, but the first thing that popped into my head before we get onto that was a line from the Monty Python movie. Bring out your dead! Because that's the way it's coming in Fall River.
That's right.
But I checked into that last night, after you brought it up. And yes, that was voted through by the UC Irvine student government. They voted it through based upon the petition of 12 non-citizen students. They voted it through, and it created havoc. Day one, it was kind of quiet until a couple of the students at the college and a few other people made it go viral on the internet. The school did not take any action immediately. So all of a sudden, UC Irvine cannot have flags up. Ban is in place. The phone calls to the president, the phone calls to the USIC, whatever it is, that's the trustees for the student government of all of University of California system, said, no, we are going to veto this. We can't have this. Okay? So it got vetoed. The students that petitioned and the student senate said, you can't take away our rights. This is our right to do this. You can't take away our rights. So now the item's been vetoed. The American flag, Old Glory, is still flying at UC Irvine, but the student senate or the student government is coming back into session to override the veto. So the Republican Assembly of the state legislature has now introduced legislation that makes it illegal to remove the American flag from any state-funded educational facility. But they're meeting resistance from the Democrats in the California Assembly.
Well, okay. I can't. I find it rather duplicitous that they're saying that we're violating their rights, which are rights guaranteed in America. Let them try to remove the Iraqi flag from, in Iraq. And we've got 4 minutes or so, a little bit less, and I think this says it all, because I don't care what, this is America. This is our nation, and this is one of the problems now, that we think that we have the right to divide, and when you divide, you get weaker. So I'm going to read two quotes, two of my favorite quotes from one of my two favorite presidents, Theodore Roosevelt, okay? This is about immigration. In the first place, we should insist that if the immigrant who comes here in good faith becomes an American and assimilates himself to us, he shall be treated on an exact equality with everyone else. For it is an outrage to discriminate against any such man because of creed, birthplace, or origin. But this is predicated upon the man's becoming in very fact an American and nothing but an American. There can be no divided allegiance here. Any man who says he is an American but something else also isn't an American at all. We have room for but one flag, the American flag, and this excludes the red flag, which symbolizes all wars against liberty and civilization, just as much as it excludes any foreign flag of a nation to which we are hostile. We have room for but one language here, and that is the English language. And we have room for but one sole loyalty, and that loyalty is to the American people. They're visitors here. They don't tell us where to put our flag. And now I'm going to tell you what he talks about, what I think is one of the biggest problems in America today. Too many nationalities protecting their nationality when their nationality should be an American. This was given on October 12th, 1915, almost 100 years ago. He had a crystal ball before an assembly of the Knights of Columbus at Carnegie Hall. Former President Theodore Roosevelt said this, and this is an excerpt. There is no room in this country for hyphenated Americans. When I refer to a hyphenated American, I do not refer to naturalized Americans. Some of the very best Americans I have ever known were naturalized Americans. Americans born abroad, but a hyphenated American is not an American at all. This is just as true of the man who puts native before the hyphen as of a man who puts German or Irish or English or French before the hyphen. Americanism is a matter of spirit and soul. Our allegiance must purely be to the United States. We must unsparingly condemn any man who holds any other allegiance. But if he is heartily and singly loyal to this republic, then no matter where he was born, he is just as good an American as anyone else. The one absolute certain, listen to this, people, the one absolutely certain way of bringing this nation to ruin, of preventing all possibility of its continuing to be a nation at all, would be to permit it to become a tangle of squabbling nationalities, an intricate knot of German Americans, Irish Americans, English Americans, Italian Americans, Scandinavian Americans, or any such. Now we have different ones, Mexican Americans or whatever, okay? Each preserving its separate nationality than with other citizens of the American Republic. The men who do not become Americans and nothing else are hyphenated Americans. There ought to be no room for them in this country. The man who calls himself an American citizen and who yet shows by his actions that he is primarily a citizen of a foreign land plays a thoroughly mischievous part in the life of our body politic. He has no place here, and the sooner he returns to the land to which he feels his real heart allegiance, the better it will be for every good American. There is no such thing as a hyphenated American who is a good American. The only man who is a good American is a man who is an American and nothing else. And I'm sick and tired of these groups, and we're seeing it in Fall River on a different scale. It's not by nationality, it's by neighborhood. Divide and conquer. We are Americans. Let's work for this nation, not for where our grandparents were born. You live in America. Be an American.
Thank you for your commentary, Chip. Thank you all for watching. Have a great day.